Bienvenue! Oh, it's Friday. You're here. Come in. The parlor is exactly as it should be on a Friday, slightly more disorganized than the rest of the week, with a book face down on the arm of the sofa and a record sleeve out that hasn't been put away properly, and a faint smell of something that was definitely lit in here recently and probably shouldn't have been. I'm not going to explain any of that. It's Friday, and the parlor has a certain Friday character, and that's the end of it. Friday is the parlor, books, films, music, things to watch and hear and read, and today I want to think with you about nostalgia. I promise it's not as mournful as it sounds. Nostalgia has a bad reputation for being the thing that keeps you from living in the present, but I don't think that's quite right. Nostalgia, properly understood, is one of the more reliable routes back to what you actually love, and knowing what you actually love is very useful information. Also, it is Friday. Friday evening deserves good things in it. Let's find you some. Now for the Friday invitation. Tonight, don't go looking for something new. Look for something you already love. A book you've read and want to come back to, a film you've seen enough times to know exactly how you feel about it, a piece of music that goes immediately into the place in your chest where certain things live, an album, an old film, a novel from a summer you remember clearly. Revisiting is not a failure of imagination. It is sometimes the more demanding choice to sit with something known and notice what's different in you now, what it means to you this time. If you find that thing tonight, that's the Friday sorted. The parlor is always happiest when something is being read or watched or listened to with genuine pleasure and no particular hurry. I have to read you this poem. I've been going back to it all week, at odd moments, in the kitchen, on walks, and I still can't quite get the measure of why it does what it does to me. A.E. Housman, from A Shropshire Lad, 1896, a collection of poems nominally about rural England, but actually, and I think Housman knew this, about the way certain places live in you long after you've left them. This is Poem XL. Into my heart an air that kills from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? That is the land of lost content, I see it shining plain, the happy highways where I went and cannot come again. That is the land of lost content, I see it shining plain. Housman is not describing grief exactly. He's describing the particular sharpness of a memory that is still fully alive, so alive it sends its air across to you from very far away, and that air kills a little. Not painfully, just exactly. I think about that when I notice summer nostalgia coming on, the sense of a particular summer afternoon from years ago that arrives in me complete, with all its original light and temperature intact. And I'm briefly there and not there simultaneously. It's not sadness, it's Housman's air from yon far country. The land of lost content is not lost, it's just very far. Come through to the ballroom. I've put on something with that particular late afternoon quality, warm and slightly golden, unhurried, sounds like a Friday evening that has nowhere to be. Write something, think about what you want tonight to look like, or simply rest here for a few minutes. That landed perfectly, right into the Friday feeling. On to the nursery. I found something this week that I hadn't seen in years. At the back of a shelf, behind the books that are consulted and the ones that are merely kept, there was a paperback that I recognized before I even read the spine. The particular color of the cover, the shape of it in my hand, I knew I'd read it in a specific summer. I was perhaps 12, perhaps 13, and I knew it had been important to me in that way that books are important to you before you have the vocabulary to explain why. I sat down with it for half an hour. The first chapter was exactly as I remembered it, and simultaneously completely new. I had changed enough that I was reading a different book, and yet the book was unchanged, and the strange experience of reading it again was the two things existing simultaneously. The paperback is on the Parlour side table now. I'll finish it this weekend, and it will be both this summer and that one, overlapping and distinct, the way some pleasures always are. Come and sit. I want to tell you what I actually think nostalgia is, because I think we've been misunderstanding it. We tend to treat it as regret in reverse, a looking back that implies dissatisfaction with the present, a grieving for what is gone, a retreat from the current moment into a safer, remembered one. And it can be that, but I don't think that's what it primarily is. What nostalgia actually is, I think, is the mind's recognition of what it loves. When a summer afternoon from 10 years ago arrives in you complete, the light, the smell, the specific emotional quality of it, what your mind is saying is this. This thing matters to you. This is a data point about who you are and what you care for. And that recognition is not backward facing. It tells you something about now. What music, what light, what company, what season makes you feel most yourself. The summer that comes back to you most vividly, what did it contain? What is worth knowing? Not as an impossible standard for the present to meet, but as a map of your own loves. On that note, 5 things for the Parlour this weekend. I have strong feelings about all of them, and I mean every word. The first is a movie, My Neighbor Totoro. Hayao Miyazaki, 1988. If you have not watched it in summer, watch it in summer. The film is almost entirely about the quality of a summer afternoon in tall grass, the way children inhabit a season without nostalgia because they don't yet know it will end. It is the most summer a film has ever felt, appropriate for all ages, wonderful for families, and equally good alone. I remember watching this with my family the first time, my kids, and they were just giggly just the whole time. It was so fun. Second is the movie Flipped, Rob Reiner, 2010. It's 1960s suburban America, 2 children growing up across the street from each other over several summers, told from both of their perspectives. The same events, the same years, the same street, and the gap between what 2 people remember is the whole film. I find it does something very particular to your sense of your own childhood. It makes you wonder what version of things the people around you were living in while you were living in yours. Ages 10 and up. The Penderwicks. This is a book by Jeanne Birdsall. There's 4 sisters who rent a cottage on a New England estate for the summer, and everything that summer could possibly contain happens to them. This was actually the first real chapter book in this house. My daughter Gwen read it in one stretch, the way you do when you're 7 and a book has completely claimed you. That is the correct way to read it. The experience of it at any age is the same. You want to live there. You want that summer. This is one of my favorites, another book, The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Speare. This one I have to offer with some personal disclosure, which is that it was my favorite book growing up, and I am not objective about it. I read it many times. A young woman arrives from Barbados in 1687, Puritan, Connecticut. In summer, knowing almost no one, understanding almost nothing about how this world works. The summer is vivid and strange, and the whole thing builds with this kind of tension that makes you read faster and faster without noticing you're doing it. I've read it many, many times, and I will read it again. And last, not a film, not a book, just a song. Little Bitty Pretty One by Thurston Harris and the Sharks, 1957. Put it on right now. It sounds exactly like the summer from before you were born. The one you remember anyway, the one that arrives in you on warm Friday evenings like something that was always yours. That is nostalgia doing exactly what it does. The land of lost content, shining plain, playing on a record player somewhere in a backyard in 1957, and you're completely, inexplicably there. I have a whole Spotify playlist. The link is below if you want the full version of this particular Friday. Any of these this weekend with the windows open and the light doing what June light does will take you somewhere real and bring you back more settled than you left. And before we finish off for today, I want to read you this letter that I got from someone this week who writes, I have a peculiar problem with summer. I love it. I genuinely love it. The light, the warmth, the ease of it, but I can't seem to be inside it properly because some part of me is already mourning it. I'm sitting in a beautiful June garden and thinking about October. I'm in the middle of the best part of the year and I'm sad it will end. I don't know how to just be here. I know this experience. I think many people do, though few admit it so clearly. Here's what I believe is happening. The mind is doing something that feels like pessimism, but is actually love. When you're in the middle of something you deeply love, the awareness of its finitude arrives alongside the love itself. Not as a punishment, as a measure of how much it matters. If you didn't love it so specifically, you wouldn't grieve it in advance. The trouble is that the pre-grief takes you out of the present and into a future that hasn't happened yet. And the summer you're missing while you grieve, it is happening right now. So here's a small practical thought. When you notice the thought arriving, the October thought, the it's almost over thought, don't argue with it. Just add a fact to it. The thought says, summer's ending. You add, but it's not over yet. It is today. It is right now. This afternoon, this evening, the raspberries are ripe. The light is coming in at this angle. Housman knew this land of lost content and wrote it down so you would recognize it. He didn't argue with it either. He just looked at the shining plain and wrote a poem. The blue remembered hills and this afternoon, both real, both yours. Be here now. October will arrive when it arrives. The film is chosen. It's My Neighbor Totoro tonight, which I have seen many times and feel entirely certain about. Little Bitty Pretty One is already on. The windows are open. The parlor is as it should be on a Friday evening. I hope your Friday opens into something you already love, revisited with proper attention and nowhere to be by the end of it. Come back tomorrow. I'll be in the garden. Until then, take good care of yourself.